Okay, so here we are continuing on with building this Space Invaders game. And so we've got our alien fleet that we drew. We've got our spaceship. So there's kind of maybe a couple key things left to do. So first thing we got to do is we got to handle collisions so that we can detect like when we kill an alien or when the spaceship dies. And then we got to be able to fire something. So like have the spaceship fire its laser. And then we also need to add sound. So those are the key things. I want to move the spaceship as well. And so the first thing we're going to do is work on handling those collisions. But before we do, and just a note that, so in the previous part we were modifying our alien fleet. So previously for the alien fleet, we had a whole array of game objects that we're using like this. We built this game object class to basically track like the graphic we're using, hold our display object, and then other factors like the position of the object and stuff. But we ran out of RAM very quickly because we only have 2 kilobytes to work with. And so our solution there was to create a new class called Alien Fleet. And what our Alien Fleet class does, it just creates a single game object that kind of tracks the top left alien and holds them in that top left position. And then that we're basically able to create the whole alien fleet, but only using the memory for one game object there, with a little bit of overhead. But that helped us out, and we had run out of RAM, and now we're back in business. There is one kind of key issue here. So on the move horizontally function, I have a mistake right here where I'm subtracting the width, and it prevents them from going all the way to the edge here. So I'm going to remove this right there to solve that issue, and now you'll see that they go all the way to the edge instead of cutting short a little bit there. And then I'm also going to come back here and adjust it so that they start with a Y position of 0. So they're starting all the way, or maybe we'll set this to be like 4. So they're sitting a little bit closer to the top. Okay, and so now that that's done, we're going to continue working on our project. And the next step is to handle collisions, and then we'll have all the tools that we need to kind of finish up our game. Then once our game is basically done, we'll come back and add sound to it. Okay, so here we are back in Platform IO. Here's our main function. I need to make the same change that I showed you up there to remove the width part from our alien fleet class. And now we're going to go over to our game object, and we're going to add a function here to handle collisions. So we're going to call this collides with. So bool collides with. Okay, and it's going to take as an object a game object. So we're going to be able to see if 2 game objects collided basically. So we want to make it const because we don't want to change it. And then we're going to use a reference so we don't copy it. And we'll call it the other object. And basically we want to check to see if it doesn't like this. What don't we like here? We don't like something. Oh, I need to put the reference here. Sorry. There we go. Okay. That's all better. So basically we want to check to compare their basically rectangles. So we're going to draw rectangles for each one and see if they're within the bounds of each other's rectangles. And so for this object, basically this current object that we're inside of is going to compare to this other object. And so we're going to look and see if the current position plus the width is less than the other dot x position. So what this does, we're basically checking to see if the boxes don't overlap. Okay. And so what we'll do is we're gonna just OR these all together. So say bool did not collide. So we're gonna do this one, and we're gonna compare that. Also, we're gonna compare to see if they are greater So I think we're going to put the other one right here. Actually, we'll do x position is greater than other dot width plus other. So basically, if this is saying, is it to the left of the object or to the right of the object? And so if it's to the left or the right, then we're okay. Now, if any of these, so I think we want this to be an or, right? If it's this or that, we're good. No. Let me think about this for a second. Okay, so come back to this. We're going to check to see this one and this one. So basically we're saying if we're to the left of it or to the right of it, that means that we didn't collide with it horizontally. And so we're going to say do not collide x. And we'll do this again for y, but using the height instead. And we'll change all these to be the y position, change this to be y. Yep. And change this to be height as well. Okay. So now if either of these is false, we want to return true. So we're going to say return did not collide x, or did not collide y. Okay, now let's think about the logic here. So if we didn't collide here and we didn't collide here, then both of these would be true. So true and true, we're going to do the opposite, and we're going to return false or false. So false or false is false, that means we didn't collide. If one of these is true, so if this is true but this one is false because they did collide, then we're going to this is not right. So here's the problem. You can overlap horizontally but not be overlapping vertically. And so we need to collide in both axes. So it has to be both of them true. Like this, we're going to put an and right here. So if it's this one, if we did collide, so if this is false because they collided, then this becomes true. And this one is false or true because they didn't collide, then this becomes false here. So true and false, we return false. But if both of these is false because you collide in both, we're overlapping vertically and horizontally, then this will return true. Okay, which is what we want. And so this is how we want to do it. But because our alien fleet is not actually game objects, we're going to copy this and we're going to make what's called an overload, where we're going to reference the basically have a way to do this without actually passing a game object. So we really just need to know the width, the height, and the x and the y. And so we're going to say use our same types here. X, y, and then width and heights. Okay, so we're going to call this x. We'll call this other x. And we'll call this other y. And let's call this other w. And we'll call this other height. Okay. Is that the order I want to do it? Let's see, width and then height. Yeah, so we'll do in that order. Okay. And so we're going to replace that with these. We're going to replace the Y positions with these. We're going to place the width with that, and the height with that. Okay, and so now we have an overload. And so now we can either pass in a game object or we can check collides with, okay? And so now we've got that built, and now it's time for us to build our projectiles, our lasers, our bullets, or whatever you want to call them. Okay, so we want to make one new graphic. Let's call it bullet. Okay. And we're going to use our little graphic jar. Okay, so this is the link that we've shared, and we're just going to draw our little bullet. We want to align it to the left and vertically, so we use as little memory as possible. And we'll just make it like really small, like this. Okay, and this will be, so we'll have the height, set the height to be 4. Okay, and it'll just be this, so it won't take up that much space. I'm just going to copy this right here. I'm going to do this one as a hex array instead of a binary right here. Okay, and so we'll wrap this up to here. Get rid of that extra line right there. And here we go. And now we're going to make an array for these ones because I think we're okay on memory still. And then we're going to have a value that represents the max number of bullets. Okay. And let's go ahead and define that. So we'll say pound define max bullets is 3. Okay. And so we got that. Oh, we called it max now. Let's change that up here. Okay. So we got that. And then we need to initialize these. And so what we'll do is make a for loop. So 4. We'll get rid of this one too, but we'll say 4. Int y equals, we'll say I equals 0, I is less than max num bullets, and we're going to create game objects for them. We're going to say bullets I, and then we'll set the positions of them just to be 0. It's the bullet graphic, and we have a width of 2. Yep, so the first one's width, and a height of 4. Okay. Now we do have a problem here. Let's see, it's showing an error. What's our error? Oh, semicolon I plus plus. So the issue that we're going to have is this. If we run this, it's just going to draw the bullets. Now the bullets shouldn't be drawn unless we have fired them, right? And so in our game object, we actually need to have another quantity here. uint, or we'll say bool, is visible. And we're going to set a default of true so that when we draw something, it's visible. And then we're going to say void set visibility bool visibility is visible equals false. And what we're going to do is when we go to draw it, actually no, we're going to say bool get. Yeah, actually that's what we'll do. So we're going to, oh, and there's a mistake here. So we want to not set that to be false, we want to set that to be visibility, so we can make it true or false. And then when we draw it, we're going to check to see if it's visible. So if visible, or is visible, right? We're going to draw it. And so what this will do is, if we set something not to be visible, it will not draw it. So coming back to here, when we initialize these, we also want to set them to not be visible. Set visibility false. Okay? And so now we've got those. Now let's test it out. So we're going to come to our move loop, and let's actually make one more loop. Let's make a control loop. And we're going to cheat here a little bit, and then we're going to modify this one later, okay? And so we're going to say void control loop, okay? And we're going to make a new timer called create bullet timer. Okay. And we're going to create a new bullet every, we'll say 400 milliseconds. Okay. All right. Let me come back to here. And we want to also determine if they're visible. We're going to get visibility, and we're going to then return, so this to be a bool, and then we'll return if it is visible. Okay, and this will allow us to see if those bullets are currently visible. And so let's go to our control loop, void control loop. And then what we're going to do is we'll do our timer. So if the create bullet timer dot time up, create bullet timer dot reset. Okay, and then what we're going to do is we're going to create bullet, and we're going to pass into it a position. For now, we're just going to set it to be 50. Okay, and now let's make a void. Also say bool create bullet. So we're going to make a bool because in the case that we can't create one, we can return something to say we didn't create it. We might not use it, but and we're going to pass into the starting position for it. Okay? And so when we create the bullet, what we're going to do is we're going to loop through our bullet array. So we'll say for int I equals 0, I is less than max num bullets, I plus plus. Okay? And then we're going to say if bullets I to get our current bullet dot, let's make it is visible. I'm already using is visible. Yeah, let's just get dot get visibility. So if it's visible, or if it's not visible, that means we're not using it. If it's not visible, then what we're going to do is we're going to say bullets I dot set visibility to true, and then we're going to, I don't know if we have a way to set the set, yep, so we need to add a function here to void set x position. We may want to have a set y position as well, so void set y position, even though we might not use that one. All right, and we're gonna do pass in the uint 16t x position, and we're say x position equals x position, like that. Okay, and we'll do the same thing here. Uint 16. Oh no, I think there's just an int. So int 16 y position, and then we'll do the same thing down here. Okay, and now that will allow us to set the position of the bullet. Let's see. Yes, that's good. Okay, so set x position, and we'll pass in x position, just like that. And so that will create a bullet every so often. And then we're going to, if we created one, we're going to return true. Else, we're going to, if we get out of that for loop, that means we didn't make one because there wasn't one available. Okay? And so we create them, but we need to move them as well. And so we'll move them just right now with the spaceship. So we're going to say move bullets. And so now we need to make a move function for the bullets. And so we just want those to move up. And so probably I should set the speed of those as well. But we'll go and take this here. Say bullets I dot set y speed to be maybe 3, and we can adjust this later. And we'll set the x speed to be 0. Okay, and so that's good. Now come down to here. Now we want to draw our move bullets function. Okay, and we gotta come all the way up here. Should be plural. Okay. And now what we're going to do is for int I equals 0, I is less than max num bullets, I plus plus, and we're going to say bullets dot move vertically, move up. And then what we're going to do is, if we are hitting the top, we're going to say, we're going to set the, and this should be indexing the array there. We're going to set that bullet to be not visible anymore. So bullets I dot set visibility false. Okay? And so what this will do is basically, in the cases that, oh, this should be a dot in there. Okay. In the cases that it hits the top, then we'll make it not visible anymore. So let's go ahead and test this and see if it works. Okay, it does not work. And the reason why is because we haven't rendered them. And so we need to draw the bullets as well. Draw bullets. Okay. And then what we're going to do is we're just going to say void draw bullets. Okay. And let's go ahead and just copy this. This is basically all we're doing. And then we're just going to call our draw function dot draw. Okay. And this draw function now will only draw them if they're visible. Oh, we want to set the color white. Okay. And now let's try it out. Okay, so we actually have one other issue here. We do need to set the Y position because we need to set it at the bottom of the screen, right? And so let's set this to be, we'll set it to be 64 for now, and then we can adjust that later. Okay, there's actually one more issue. When we created this, remember that bullet has a height of 64, and so if we start it at the where the top of it is at 64, that means the bottom of it is at 68, and it had a move speed of 3, so it moves up 1, and it's at 61 now. Well, it's still off the screen, and so our move function is basically checking to see if any part of it's off the screen, and so it was registering that it was off the screen even though it hadn't moved to the top yet. And that's just the way that our move function works. So one way we could fix it is to rethink our move function, but for now we're going to change that to be 60, and then it'll work for us. So we're going to go ahead and show this in the simulator. Okay, so here we see it in the simulator, and you can see that we have it creating those little bullets shooting up the screen. And so we'll wrap this one up here, and so we're really close to being done. So basically what's left is now to integrate this with the collision detection, so we can detect to see if an alien got hit by one of these bullets, and then we can make it so that alien's not visible anymore. And then we would also want to check to see if we collide with the bottom, and then from there just integrating the controls with the spaceship. So on the next one we'll handle those collisions, and if we have time we'll get into the controls as well.